Hi. We've had some Zoom issues again, so the things that have been recorded have been the discussions between myself and the lovely folk who are tuning in on Tuesdays via Zoom. The upfront bits, where I've been giving the big picture and helping us to kind of all run in the same direction. Sadly, there's an echo and it's just not very easy to listen to. So I thought I'd give you a summary here as to what's going on. As we're going through Mark's Gospel over these coming weeks, I really want us to see how and why Mark is putting together his material in this way. And there's so much that we could be saying in relation to this rich Gospel. But we want to really be trying to hit the main point, the big idea of what Mark is wanting us to grasp. Mark as our teacher, as the one who we're listening really carefully to. And the passage this week, which is chapter 1, verses 16 through to chapter 2, verse 14, is a bigger chunk than last week. And I just want you to see why I'm gathering that chunk, these episodes, all in one go. If you just have a quick look at chapter 1, verses 16 through to 20, and then turn the page and get to chapter 2, verses 13 to 14. And we have the bookends of this section. And Mark has deliberately grouped this section by giving us these markers. It's kind of like a big signpost for us saying, hey, these episodes come together. I'm going to teach you something as you read these episodes all in one go. And the markers, the bookends, they have two sets of people who get up and follow Jesus. That's the really distinctive similarity between them. The other thing that makes us think that they act as markers is the mention of the sea. So again, a bit of a linguistic marker that helps us see that these episodes are to be taken together. And as we see these people following, it's quite remarkable. Jesus says, come, and they go, they leave their livelihoods, and they stand up and they follow him. And it raises the question as to why would anyone follow Jesus? Why are these people following Jesus? And as we read these passages together, this big chunk of the text, we can be asking that question, well, why would anyone follow Jesus, God's King? How does that come about that someone would just up and leave as soon as Jesus says? And I think what happens is that as we read the first bookend, as we see the fishermen getting up and following him, we're thinking, really? Why? That seems pretty dramatic. That's very immediate. By the time we get to the second bookend, the end one, we're thinking, yeah, that makes sense. This is the guy to follow. This is the king who we want to be sitting under his authority. And as we go through these episodes, we get a really clear picture of the authority of Jesus. And as we see his authority, so we understand why anyone would want to follow him. In the discussion, we really were asking two big questions of each of these episodes. And the question is, how does Mark show us Jesus' authority? And what sort of authority is it? So how does Mark show us Jesus' authority? And what sort of authority is it? And I just walked through one of the episodes all together so that we could see how it works. And so we're going to look at verses 21 through to 28. We have two big instances of Jesus' authority. I don't know whether you noticed, but Mark loves to repeat things and he has particular words that he loves to use. And immediately is a very Mark-like term. And so all throughout this passage we have immediately, he gets to the business. He's not wasting time on lots of description. He just wants to show us the action. He wants to show us King Jesus in action. Last week it was showing us this is God's King. And here we're seeing God's King in action. And as we're seeing him in action, we're catching a glimpse of his kingdom. It's a bit like a holiday brochure. As we see each time he moves us on to the next bit, it's like we're flicking the page. This is another aspect of the kingdom. This is what the king is like. In our day and age, social media, we have so much scrolling and Instagram, and we're always looking for the next hit, aren't we? I was watching something that said that that's the addictive thing. We want the next happy hit, the new post, the new photo. And in many ways, Mark plays into the way that we think these days. He's a media. He's like, this is it. Get this hit, this hit, this hit of Jesus, though. Be addicted to seeing more of King Jesus. And I hope that when you were doing your prep, looking through this, you wanted to see more. We want more of this King Jesus. It's exciting, it's compelling, and as we have all these instances of Jesus' authority compounded, we are more amazed by Jesus. So in verses 21 to 28, we see Jesus' authority in two ways. We see the authority of his teaching. Did you see that in verse 21? He entered the synagogue, was teaching, and the crowd, the people, were astonished at his teaching. And they said that he is one who teaches with such authority that they have not heard. So he's besting the religious leaders, the authority of the scribes, the Pharisees, those in charge. This guy, Jesus, is speaking with more authority than them. That's quite a statement. That is turning things upside down. The religious leaders have been very much the authoritative, powerful figures. But Jesus comes in and immediately he teaches, and the people are astonished, and everyone's talking about the authority of his word. And then the next sentence, another immediately from Mark, we have an unclean spirit shouting out to Jesus, "What have you done to us, Jesus of Nazareth?" He says, "I know who you are. You're the Holy One of God." So we have yet another shouting, heralding of Jesus' identity. And we also have Jesus' authority as, did you see it in verse 25? Jesus rebukes him with one word, one sentence, "Be silent," and come out of him. He doesn't even touch him, he does nothing. He just says, "Come out of him." And the next sentence, the unclean spirit convulsing him, crying out that came out of him. Jesus' authority is astounding. Did you see in verse 27, everyone's reaction? They were amazed. This is not normal behavior. This is not like anyone else. Now I know as we see an unclean spirit, as we see demons, we might think, oh, that's a bit crazy. We don't really see that kind of thing. But throughout the Bible, wherever God is powerfully at work, often we see Satan, we see demons, we see unclean spirits. So in biblical terms, it's quite a normal occurrence. Another question just to consider as we get through this, as we kind of make our way through these episodes. In verse 44, Jesus really clearly says, "See that you say nothing to anyone." And that's a thing in Mark's gospel. Jesus is often saying, don't tell anyone, don't tell anyone. I'm thinking, why? Why not let everyone shout about you, Jesus? You're God's king. Surely everyone should be finding out more about you. Everyone should be talking about you. But the thing is, at this moment, he doesn't want everyone to be shouting about his healing ministry. He didn't come to heal. That is a part of what he's doing, but that's not his main purpose. He's come to preach, and ultimately he's come to die on the cross to save us from our sins. And as he does that, as he heads towards Jerusalem in chapter 8, suddenly he's not telling everyone to keep quiet. And everyone's allowed to speak about him because he's on the way to Jerusalem, to the cross. His main purpose is about to come clear. So in our discussion, we then went through these episodes, remarking, being astonished, being amazed by Jesus' authority. And then we were just considering, as we were thinking, what does this all mean? We were thinking, well, what is it, like, how does this authoritative Jesus make it so desirable to follow him? How is his kingdom desirable? His kingdom, which we can't be in right now. They were talking about the new creation there, where we're face to face with Jesus, but we can know the King. And the best thing about the kingdom is the King. This King who compassionately reaches out to all sorts of people, who amazingly heals people, and then the next minute they're normal, they're back to serving. The authority of Jesus, who can heal a leper without being made unclean, who can forgive sins for the paralytic who's lowered down from the roof, and also help him to walk again. The authority is astounding, and as we think of him, look on him, encounter him, we want to be thinking, wow. We should be thinking, wow. And actually, this is authority to be enjoyed. We're on the right side. King Jesus is the winner. He's God's king. He's winning and he's right. He's perfect. He's not morally dubious. He's not biased. He's not got some sort of hidden secrets that are going to come out. This is God's king. And the more persuaded I am of Mark's reliability, that Jesus really did historically walk the earth, that this Jesus that we're reading of here was walking amongst people like us, the more amazed I am that God's King calls us to follow him. We can be in his kingdom under his rule. It's an amazing, astonishing reality. And as we're considering him, we want to be praying that we would have a big view, this view of Jesus. We want to be thinking, well, how am I enjoying Jesus in this passage? Every week we're asking that question. How are these verses helping me to enjoy Jesus more? You can catch up with some of the discussion on the other video on this YouTube channel. I hope that's been helpful. I'll send out an email, or you'll have got an email with other details. Do join us next week. Thank you.